Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I work with a lot of individuals with attachment wounds. I work with a lot of avoidant individuals. And today I'm going to talk about something I notice with my couples, the patients who are like a couples case in couples therapy, where I notice the traits and attributes of who the avoidant really desires, what they want, even in individual therapy, when they tell me about their partner or who they tell me they wish that they could be with. These are some of the traits that kind of show up in either their long-term partner or someone they talk about is their deep desire or someone they desire to connect with, etc., in a romantic perspective. And so one of the first traits that I really notice that I think avoidants don't recognize right away, but eventually as they get closer to someone, they recognize this is very important. And it is someone who is able to hold their own opinion and does not conform to them. Actually, a lot of my patients mention pretty harsh words about people who mimic their opinion because they almost feel like they have too much power in the relationship. They don't say it like that, but from a psychological perspective, I can't say what they say. It's a little too harsh for YouTube, but they don't like holding power. They actually almost lose respect, which sounds really harsh, but they lose respect for somebody who continues to mimic their opinion or doesn't stand up to what they believe in. And the reason why is they want someone to add additional information to their life. That doesn't mean they want someone who never adjusts, but what they feel, basically, if somebody only takes their opinion in account and doesn't share how they really feel, the avoidant actually feels like this person is not very genuine. And they feel almost like the person is lying to them. That might be a little too triggered of them to say that, but truly that's what it is. So if somebody is like a yes man or a yes woman, they don't like that. They feel like this relationship is not, they don't want to pursue and continue that relationship, at least to a deeper level, because they don't feel like it adds. They feel it's not like that it's too easy. That's not what it is. It's almost like they feel like there's no depth to the relationship and they don't feel comfortable fully being vulnerable because they don't feel like the person is really themselves, because they don't believe that anybody can just 100% agree with their opinion. And typically most people have differing opinions, at least at one point. So that's why. So let's give an example. Let's say we have a couple, let's say a fearful avoidant female, a dismissive avoidant male. And let's say he's stating that he's frustrated with a recent disagreement with a coworker, and he's sharing this to his partner here, the fearful avoidant. He admitted to not understanding what went wrong, and it looks like he is open for insight. Let's say this discussion is happening in couple sessions, so I can see them, and I'm letting them kind of work something out while I observe them. And so what ends up happening is we can see that he's open for insight. So maybe she's prompted or whatever, maybe it comes naturally, where instead of agreeing to what he said, she offers her own perspective of what could have happened. And maybe she mentions, I think that maybe you were a little too harsh with this guy. Or I think you misunderstood him. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Whatever her perspective is, it allowed him to ultimately have more insight and improve his conflict resolution skills. So that added to his life, right? So let's look at it a different way. And this is more common with anxious preoccupied. Let's say we have a very similar case, but let's say what happens let's say it's almost the exact case, but we change a few things. He mentions, something went wrong and he doesn't know, he's frustrated about the recent disagreement. And let's say instead of her offering her genuine insight, she says, oh, that guy's just, X, Y, and Z. He shouldn't have reacted like that. You did everything just fine, right? Let's say she said that. That's probably not ultimately helpful for him. He might be happy in the moment, but actually what's happening is he's not learning and she's also not giving her true opinion. So there's no genuine connection there, right? It's actually pretty one-sided to some extent. She's putting him sort of on a pedestal and thinking, in order for me to win his love, I have to agree with him all the time, which is more common with anxious preoccupied. But that actually makes him feel like the relationship is it doesn't have as much depth, which kind of stops him from truly desiring her and committing to her, unfortunately. But that's the genuine truth of why some of this happens, because he feels like he's not getting to know the real her. Okay. The second one is avoidants really desire and really appreciate a person who is caring and genuine. This means a person that the avoidant feels loves them for who they are instead of what they can give and provide. That's usually the way they word it to me. Avoidants really pull away from people who they feel want them for what they can give, whether it's like a relationship, whether it's commitment, whether it's marriage, whether it's money. They don't feel like those things are genuine. From my perspective, and it could be because I'm looking at it from a therapeutic standpoint, and a lot of avoidants, I work with a lot of them, I perceive avoidants to be incredibly romantic folks. Like they seem very romantic. And the depth of what they perceive as romantic is they think love is special, which is why they withhold it. And they really want it right, which is a pretty romantic approach. It's not reasonable necessarily all the time, because in order, you can't withhold your love entirely. Otherwise, you can never, like, you can't really connect with someone genuinely if you don't take risk. But that's part of, their wound. Anyways, regardless, they really want somebody to love them for who they are, which could put pressure on the other person. But basically, it's like they want someone to love them even if they don't commit. And I'm not saying this is healthy. And I know some people are going to crash out about this. I get it. Even if they don't commit, even if, maybe there's a dry spell, do you still love me? Are you going to leave me? That's somewhere deep inside where some of these behaviors come from. And I made a video on how avoidants test, and I don't like to show people that side because it is unfortunate. And I don't want people to get hurt and trying to, please an avoidant. But that is something that is information you guys probably need to know. Avoidants really want people to love them for who they are. And even if they don't have much to give, they still want to be loved. So that's what I meant by genuine and caring, okay? The next one is they like somebody who can apologize when they make mistakes. So this one is a tricky one because a lot of people in general, regardless of your attachment style, a lot of people don't like to apologize or accept that they made a mistake or hurt somebody because it can make people feel bad. Like, most genuine people don't actually like to hurt another person. And so a defense mechanism is typically you don't want to apologize or you don't want to take accountability for what you did. Avoidants really like people who can apologize for the mistakes they made because then they feel almost like this relationship is safe. I can speak how I feel and I'm not going to be rejected. And so if you hurt me, let's say the avoidant is feeling like this, if you hurt me and you apologize, then I feel like this relationship is worth it for me. That's usually how the avoidant feels. And that also means that they themselves will be more willing to apologize as well. Because now they feel like if you can take accountability, then they're not going to be the only one taking accountability. Because a lot of avoidants have a fear that they're going to be the only one changing and putting effort in the relationship, which is why they withhold. But if they see that you are also apologetic, you're able to accept and admit when you make mistakes, they're going to want to admit that too. It's unfortunate though, because a lot of avoidants withhold some of these behaviors. Just because avoidants don't come across this way doesn't mean they can't desire this. Just something I wanted to point out, because I think a lot of people were wondering, how can avoidants desire something that they don't have? A lot of people do. A lot of anxious, preoccupied desire people who are independent and confident when they themselves may not have those characteristics. So it's actually really common to desire characteristics that you don't have. It's really common. The psychological phenomenon, I could explain it, but I tend to get off in a tangent and I'm trying not to do that. So that's neither here nor there. The next one is they like when a person can call them out when they're out of line. Even if they don't like it right away, they tend to start desiring this person and respecting this person because they feel like, basically like I had mentioned in the first one, they don't have to feel like they're walking all over this person. This person is a genuine person. This person is showing their true colors for who they really are, and avoidance can really appreciate them. So calling them out, if they're doing something, I don't know, maybe they made a mistake in a communication standpoint, even in the relationship. If the other person can say, I didn't appreciate that, or I don't think that's healthy when you're doing that, That's just my perspective. The avoidant may not like that initially, but overall they're going to respect a person who's like that. And the fifth one is they desire a person who understands who they are and accepts them. Right? So that means a person who doesn't want them to change who they are entirely. Maybe they're always going to be a person who needs some space, or they're always a little distant. They're going to accommodate, and we want, individuals to change and adjust, but they still want you to like them for who they are. You don't want to change them fully, turn them into a completely different person. And that's why avoidants also get really triggered if you compare them to other people. So that's just something I wanted to bring up. So those are kind of the 5 traits that I noticed. There are plenty of traits, and I've made videos like this before of the person who an avoidant desires, who they commit to, who they connect to. There's quite a bit of characteristics because avoidants are pretty picky, right? So I hope this video was helpful. Please subscribe, like, and I will see you in the next one.